Robert Mason was a man who had everything the world could give him. He had tall glass buildings in the city, luxury cars that roared through the streets, and wealth that many could only dream of. Yet, despite all his success, a deep emptiness lived in his heart. 5 years ago, his daughter, Anna, had gone missing. No calls, no sightings, no clues, just silence. The police had searched, hired private detectives, and followed every lead, but nothing had ever turned up. Every morning, Robert woke up with the same heavy thought, Anna. Every night, he went to bed with the same sorrow. Money could buy almost everything, but it could not bring back the little girl who had once run into his arms with a smile so bright it could light the darkest room. On a bright Monday morning, Robert decided to visit his factory on the outskirts of the city. The factory was massive, with rows of machines and hundreds of workers making parts for products sold around the world. He rarely visited in person, preferring to manage things from his office with glass walls and endless paperwork. But that day, he felt an urge to see the place with his own eyes, to feel the heartbeat of the company he had built. Robert walked through the factory floor, his polished shoes clicking against the concrete. The air smelled of oil and metal, mixed with the faint sweetness of machines running at full speed. Workers moved quickly, focused on their tasks, but Robert's eyes scanned the room as if he were searching for something he couldn't name. And then he saw him. A young man, not much older than a teenager, stood at the end of a long aisle, operating a complex machine with skill and precision. Robert stopped in his tracks. His heart thudded violently. The boy's face, it was impossible. Every line of his features, every curve of his face, mirrored Anna's. The sharp eyes, the small nose, the way his lips pressed together in concentration, it was like looking at a reflection from the past. Robert's hands trembled slightly as he stepped closer. The young man noticed him and gave a small nod, returning to his work. But Robert couldn't look away. He felt as though time had stopped, and every memory of Anna rushed back: the way she laughed when she ran through the garden, the way she held her favorite doll clothes at night, the way she whispered secrets no one else could hear. "Excuse me," Robert called, his voice unsteady. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" The young man turned, his eyes meeting Robert's. Robert felt a strange mixture of hope and fear tighten in his chest. How could this be real? Was it possible that this boy had any connection to Anna? "My name is Robert Mason," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. I need to ask you something." "What is your name?" "Lucas," the young man replied, his tone polite but wary. Robert swallowed hard. "Lucas. Lucas, do you by any chance know anyone named Anna?" Lucas paused, his eyebrows knitting together. "Anna? No. I don't think so. Why do you ask?" Robert felt a sharp pang of disappointment, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this boy than met the eye. The resemblance was uncanny. It was not just the face, there was a way he carried himself, a quiet strength, a gentleness in his movements, that reminded Robert painfully of his daughter. I need to see your family records," Robert said, his voice almost a whisper. "Please, I need to know if there's any connection between us." Lucas hesitated, frowning slightly. I don't know if that is necessary. I'm just a worker here. My family is simple. We have no connection to anyone famous or rich." Robert's chest tightened. He felt a mixture of frustration and fear. What if this was just a cruel coincidence? What if it was not Anna, and he had allowed his longing to cloud his judgment? Yet, some part of him could not ignore the possibility, and that part demanded answers. He decided he could not wait. He needed to investigate, quietly, without alarming Lucas. He asked the factory manager to provide Lucas's employment details, family background, and previous addresses. Everything had to be checked, every small clue followed. Robert felt a strange sense of both dread and hope. He did not know what he would find, but he could not stop himself from searching. That evening, Robert returned to his mansion, walking through empty halls that once echoed with Anna's laughter. He sat by the large window, looking out at the city lights. His mind kept returning to Lucas. Anna's face mirrored in the young man, the same determined look, the same spark in his eyes. Could it be true? Could fate have played a strange, cruel trick, or was it a miracle waiting to be discovered? Robert did not sleep that night. He went through every memory of Anna, every photograph, every small detail he could remember. He compared them silently with the image of Lucas that haunted him. And with every passing hour, his hope and fear grew stronger. The answers might bring joy, or they might destroy him completely. And Robert Mason, the man who had faced every challenge with power and confidence, felt powerless. The possibility that Anna was somehow connected to this boy called Lucas had awakened emotions he had not felt in years: hope, fear, longing, and a deep, aching love that could not be measured. Tomorrow, he promised himself, he would begin the search in earnest. Tomorrow, he would uncover the truth. The next morning, Robert Mason returned to the factory earlier than anyone expected. His mind was a storm of questions, memories, and fear. Could Lucas really be connected to Anna? He had no proof yet, only a strange, overwhelming feeling that something deep in the past had brought them together. He asked the factory manager to call Lucas to the office. Lucas walked in, carrying a notebook and wearing his usual calm expression. Robert studied him quietly, noticing the same gentle eyes, the same straight posture, the same small gestures that reminded him so much of his daughter. "Lucas," Robert began carefully, "I hope I am not frightening you. I need to ask about your family, your past, and your childhood. It's very important." Lucas hesitated. "Sir, my family is normal. We live in a small town. My parents, they are alive, and we have always been together. I don't understand why you are asking so many questions." Robert nodded slowly, trying to keep his composure. "I know this is strange. But you resemble someone very important to me. It might be nothing. It might be something. I need to know for certain." Lucas frowned but did not refuse. "I can tell you about my family. But I don't see how it is connected to you." Robert asked Lucas about his parents, where they lived, where he went to school, and whether he had ever traveled far from home. Lucas answered patiently, though he looked puzzled by the intensity in Robert's eyes. Robert took notes silently, comparing every detail with what he knew about Anna's early life. At lunchtime, Robert walked through the factory courtyard, thinking. Something about Lucas did not just look like Anna, it felt like her. There was a presence, a quiet strength, and a careful way he observed the world. Anna had always been like that, curious, cautious, and yet filled with warmth and kindness. Robert decided to take the next step. He asked Lucas to provide a family photo from his childhood. "I just need a photograph," he said gently. "It will help me understand." Lucas nodded slowly and promised to bring one the next day. Robert felt a flicker of hope, but he also felt a tight knot in his chest. What if the resemblance was only a coincidence? What if he was letting his grief cloud his judgment? That evening, Robert returned home, restless and anxious. The mansion felt colder than ever. He walked from room to room, touching objects Anna had once played with. Her favorite books, her small shoes, the music box that played soft melodies, everything reminded him of her. And now, Lucas, this boy, had stirred feelings he had tried to bury for years. Robert knew he had to be careful. He could not rush Lucas, and he could not alarm him with too many questions. The truth had to come gently. And yet, he felt a strange urgency, as if the universe was giving him one last chance to find Anna, even if she was hidden in the life of someone he had never expected. The next morning, Lucas returned with the photograph. Robert took it in his hands, holding it carefully as if it were fragile. The image showed a young boy with his parents, smiling at the camera. Robert's heart pounded. He studied the face closely, comparing it to Anna's photos he had kept for years. There were similarities, yes, but there were also differences. Lucas's features had grown with age differently from Anna's, and the photograph revealed a family resemblance to his parents. Robert felt his hope mix with fear. He could not ignore the resemblance, but he also could not force a connection where none existed. He decided to dig deeper. Robert arranged for Lucas's birth records, school certificates, and any available information about his family. It was a delicate process, and he used trusted private investigators to ensure privacy. Every detail mattered. Days passed. Robert's obsession grew, but so did his fear. He feared finding nothing. He feared discovering a truth that would destroy the fragile hope he had nurtured. But he also could not stop. Lucas had awoken something in him, a hope that he could not resist. One afternoon, Robert observed Lucas from a distance on the factory floor. The boy laughed quietly with his co-workers, a soft, bright sound that reminded Robert of Anna's laughter. Every movement, every expression brought memories rushing back. The resemblance was uncanny, not just in face, but in spirit, in manner, in the way he moved through the world. Robert realized something important. This was not just about finding Anna. It was about connection, love, and the possibility that life sometimes hid miracles in unexpected places. He resolved to treat Lucas with kindness, to approach the truth with care. The last thing he wanted was to frighten him or push him away. That evening, Robert sat alone in his study, looking at the photograph again. He felt a mix of fear, hope, and anticipation. The search had begun, but he had no idea where it would lead. The resemblance was undeniable, but the truth remained a mystery. Somewhere inside him, Robert knew one thing: his heart could not ignore this boy, and he would do everything in his power to uncover the truth. Whether it brought joy or heartbreak, he had to know. And deep down, he prayed that Lucas might hold the key to finding Anna, the daughter he had loved more than life itself. Tomorrow, Robert thought, I will take the next step. Tomorrow, the search continues, and no matter what happens, I will face the truth. Robert Mason could not focus on work that week. Every thought returned to Lucas, the boy who looked so much like his missing daughter, Anna. Even during meetings with executives and calls about business deals, his mind wandered to the factory, to Lucas's quiet strength, and to the memory of Anna's laugh. It was a strange and powerful feeling, one that made him both anxious and hopeful. He decided that the next step was to meet Lucas's parents. If there was any connection, it would be revealed through them. But Robert knew he could not approach them directly. A sudden visit from a billionaire would alarm any family. He needed a careful, discreet plan. Robert hired a private investigator, a kind woman named Helen, who specialized in delicate matters. He explained the situation without exaggeration. I need information about Lucas's past, he said quietly. I want to understand where he comes from, who raised him, and if there's any connection to my daughter, Anna. Please be thorough but gentle. This must not scare anyone. Helen nodded. I will do my best. Don't worry, Mr. Mason. I understand how delicate this is. The next day, Helen began her search. She visited Lucas's hometown, talked to neighbors, and carefully collected every bit of information. Robert waited at his mansion, pacing the marble floors, listening for any news. Every time his phone rang, his heart skipped a beat. Finally, late in the evening, Helen called. Mr. Mason, I found something unusual, she said. Lucas's parents were not always here. They moved when he was very young, and there is a gap in official records for about 3 years. It seems he lived elsewhere during that time, but the details are unclear. Robert's heart thudded painfully. 3 years. Anna had gone missing 5 years ago. Could it be possible that Lucas was somehow connected? Could those missing years hide the truth? He asked Helen to dig deeper into those missing years, to find addresses, caretakers, and anyone who might have seen Lucas during that time. Every detail could be a clue. Every clue could be the key to finding Anna. Meanwhile, Robert found himself thinking about Lucas more and more. He visited the factory again, but this time, he did not approach him directly. He watched from a distance as Lucas worked, talking quietly with co-workers, laughing softly at small jokes, and helping others when machines malfunctioned. The boy had a natural kindness, a warmth that reminded Robert of Anna. One evening, Robert sat alone in his study, looking at old photographs of Anna. He remembered her small hands, the way she tilted her head when she was curious, the way she ran toward him whenever he returned home. Every memory was vivid, as if she had never left. He compared them in his mind with Lucas, and the resemblance grew stronger with every thought. Helen called again the next morning. I found someone who might know something, she said. A caretaker from the town where Lucas lived during those missing years. She is willing to talk, but we need to approach carefully. Robert felt a mixture of hope and fear. Finally, a real lead. Finally, a chance to discover the truth. He arranged a meeting with the caretaker, an elderly woman named Clara, in a small, quiet office away from the town. Clara arrived, shaking slightly, but she looked at Robert with kind eyes. You wanted to know about Lucas, she said. I remember him. He was special. Very quiet, very careful, but always curious. And yes, I remember something unusual about those years. Robert leaned forward. Please, Clara. Anything you remember could help me. Even the smallest detail. Clara took a deep breath. When Lucas was young, around the age of 5 or 6, a little girl came to stay with us for a while. She was very quiet, and she looked very much like Lucas. She had the same eyes, the same expressions. I never understood why she was here, or who sent her. But I remember thinking she was very important. Robert felt his pulse race. Could this be Anna? Could the little girl who stayed with Clara be his daughter? Did you know her name? He asked carefully. Clara nodded slowly. Yes, her name was Anna. I remember clearly because it was unusual for this town. She was only here for a few months, and then she disappeared. I never knew where she went. Robert's hands trembled. The resemblance, the missing years, the little girl named Anna, everything pointed to a connection. His heart both leapt with hope and sank with fear. What if he was wrong? What if the girl he had loved and lost was truly gone? He realized he had to tell Lucas, but he could not do it yet. He needed to prepare, to find more proof, and to approach the truth gently. Lucas had a right to know, but only when the truth was certain. That night, Robert stared out of the large window of his mansion. The city lights flickered below, but they could not light the darkness in his heart. He felt hope growing, fragile yet persistent. Anna might be alive, hidden in the life of someone he had never expected. He whispered to himself, "If it's you, Anna, I will find you. I will bring you home." And in that moment, Robert Mason, the billionaire who had controlled everything in the world, felt powerless. He felt the helplessness of a father who had lost his daughter, yet he also felt the stirring of a hope that could not be ignored. The search was only beginning, and the truth was waiting, hidden somewhere in the past. The next morning, Robert Mason could barely eat breakfast. His thoughts were full of the caretaker's words. Anna had been alive after all, living somewhere for a while under someone's care. Could it be that Lucas held the key to discovering her? Could his missing years be connected to hers? Robert did not know, but he felt a strange urgency, as if time itself was urging him to uncover the truth. He returned to the factory early, determined to observe Lucas more closely. As he watched, he noticed small details that mirrored Anna's behavior. The way Lucas laughed quietly, the way he tilted his head when thinking, the gentle way he helped a co-worker struggling with a machine. It was uncanny. Robert's heart ached with longing and hope. He wanted to reach out, to tell Lucas everything, but he held back. He had to be patient. After the factory day ended, Robert asked Lucas to join him for a quiet meeting in his office. "Lucas," he said gently, "I want to talk to you about something personal. It may sound strange, but it is very important." Lucas looked curious but nodded. "Okay, sir. What is it?" Robert took a deep breath. "Have you ever wondered about your early childhood? About who you lived with or where you were before your parents?" Lucas hesitated. "I know a little. My parents told me I lived in a few different towns before we settled here. But I don't remember much." "Why do you ask?" Robert studied Lucas closely. "Because, there are missing years in your past that may hold answers to a question I have. It's about a little girl named Anna. She went missing many years ago. She was my daughter. I believe, there may be a connection between her and you." Lucas's eyes widened. "A connection? What do you mean?" "I don't know yet," Robert admitted. "But I need to find out. You look very much like her. And the things you do, your expressions, your kindness, it reminds me of her. I need your help to discover the truth." Lucas was silent for a moment, processing the words. Then he nodded slowly. "If it helps find the truth, I will help. But I don't know anything about her." Robert felt a surge of relief and fear at the same time. Relief, because Lucas had agreed to help; fear, because the truth might be more complicated than he could imagine. Over the next few days, Robert and Helen worked tirelessly. They reviewed Lucas's birth records, past addresses, and even old photographs from the towns where he had lived. Every small detail mattered. Slowly, a picture began to form. One afternoon, Helen called Robert with urgent news. "Mr. Mason, I found an old school record from the town where Lucas lived during those missing years. There is a photo from a class picture, and I think you should see it." Robert's hands shook as Helen emailed the photo to him. He stared at it for what felt like hours. Among the children, he saw Lucas, but next to him was a little girl, the same eyes, the same shape of the face, the same small smile. It was Anna. His heart pounded so fast that he thought he might collapse. Tears filled Robert's eyes. Anna had been with Lucas all along, living nearby, but separated by circumstances he could not yet understand. How had fate kept them apart for so many years? And why had no one known? The next day, Robert arranged a private meeting with Lucas. He wanted to explain everything carefully. "Lucas," he said, "I have something very important to show you. It's a photograph from the past, from the town where you lived as a child." Lucas looked at the photo and gasped. Is that Anna?" he whispered. "I remember a little girl, but I never knew her name. Could it be?" Robert nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Yes. That is my daughter. You knew her, even as a child. She stayed near you for a while, but then she disappeared. I don't know how it happened, but I need to find her now." Lucas looked thoughtful. "So, Anna is still out there somewhere? Alive?" "Yes," Robert said, voice trembling. "And I believe you can help me find her. You may hold the key to discovering where she went, and how to bring her back." Lucas nodded slowly. "I will help. I want to know the truth too." From that moment, the bond between Robert and Lucas grew stronger. They were not father and daughter yet, but they shared a mission, a deep purpose. Robert felt something he had not felt in years: hope. Hope that Anna could be found, hope that the missing years could be explained, hope that his family could be whole again. That evening, Robert stood at the window of his mansion, looking at the city lights. He thought of Anna, of Lucas, and of the mysterious path that had brought them together. The years of pain and uncertainty had led to this moment, and he would not let fear stop him. He would find Anna, no matter what it took. And somewhere deep in his heart, Robert whispered a quiet promise. "I will not fail you, Anna. I will find you. And when I do, we will be together again." The next morning, Robert Mason could hardly contain his anticipation. The photograph Helen had found had opened a new path, a path that could finally lead him to Anna. He knew time was precious. Every day that passed without answers felt like a lifetime lost. He returned to the factory with a clear purpose. Lucas was waiting, as always, calm and focused. But today, Robert could see curiosity in the young man's eyes. He had promised to help, and now it was time to take the next step. "Lucas," Robert began, "we need to go to the town where you lived as a child, the place where Anna stayed with you. There may be people who remember her. There may be clues we can follow." Lucas hesitated. "That town? I haven't been there in years. What if we find nothing?" Robert placed a hand on his shoulder. "We have to try. Every clue counts. And you were there. You knew her. You can help me more than anyone else." Lucas nodded. "Okay. I will go with you." Within the hour, they were on a private car, heading to the small town tucked between hills and fields. The drive was quiet, both lost in thought. Robert stared out the window, imagining Anna as a little girl, playing near Lucas, smiling, and unaware of the world that had caused so much separation. When they arrived, Robert felt a strange mixture of hope and anxiety. The town was peaceful, small streets lined with modest houses. Children played near the schoolyard, and neighbors greeted each other warmly. It seemed ordinary, yet for Robert, every corner held the possibility of answers. Their first stop was the old school. Robert showed the photograph to the current principal, a kind woman with gray hair and gentle eyes. "We are searching for a girl named Anna," Robert explained softly. "She attended this school years ago. Do you remember her?" The principal studied the photograph. Her eyes widened slightly. "Anna, yes, I remember her. She was a quiet, thoughtful girl. She didn't speak much, but she observed everything. She was very bright. I remember she had a friend named Lucas. Yes, that is him in the photo." Robert felt his pulse quicken. "Do you know what happened to her? Where she went?" The principal shook her head slowly. "I do not. She disappeared suddenly. Her family never returned to the town. We tried to contact them, but there was no answer. I'm sorry." Robert closed his eyes briefly, letting the information sink in. The missing years, the photograph, Lucas, everything was connected, yet the truth was still hidden. But he could feel they were close. Next, they visited neighbors who had lived in the same area when Anna stayed there. Most had vague memories, but one elderly woman, Mrs. Thompson, remembered clearly. "Oh yes," she said, leaning on her cane. "I remember the little girl, Anna. She was always polite, and she had bright, curious eyes. I also remember the day she left. A black car came, and a man took her away. It was strange, very sudden. I never saw her again." Robert's heart skipped. A black car? Could it be that Anna had been taken? Could someone have hidden her away? And why? Questions poured into his mind, each heavier than the last. Lucas looked troubled. I remember that day. I was playing outside when she was taken. I wanted to run after her, but I was too scared. I never saw her again." Robert placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on them both. "You were brave, Lucas. You survived, and you remember. That memory may help us find her. We will find Anna, I promise." They spent the rest of the day talking to more people, following small leads, and piecing together the last known days of Anna. Each clue brought them closer, yet also revealed the complexity of the truth. Someone had hidden her for reasons unknown, separating her from everyone who loved her. As night fell, Robert and Lucas returned to the small inn where they were staying. Robert stared at the ceiling, thinking of Anna's face, her laughter, and her presence that had been missing for so long. He felt a mixture of hope and sorrow. Hope, because they were close; sorrow, because so many years had been lost. Lucas sat quietly, watching him. "Do you think we will find her?" he asked softly. Robert looked at him, eyes glistening. "Yes, Lucas. I feel it. We will find her. And when we do, everything will make sense. You may even discover why life separated you two for so long." For the first time in years, Robert felt a sense of purpose beyond his wealth. This was not about power, business, or success. This was about love, family, and the possibility of reunion. He had chased many things in life, but nothing mattered as much as finding Anna. As they prepared for the next day, Robert whispered quietly to himself, "We are close, Anna. I can feel it. Hold on. I am coming for you." And in the stillness of the night, the small town seemed peaceful, yet full of secrets waiting to be revealed. Robert Mason, a man who had controlled almost everything in the world, had never felt more powerless and more determined than he did now. The following morning, Robert Mason and Lucas woke early, the town still quiet under the soft light of dawn. Robert could feel that the next steps might bring them closer to Anna. The caretaker's story, the school records, and Mrs. Thompson's account had formed a fragile path toward the truth. Every detail mattered, and Robert felt the weight of hope pressing against the fear in his heart. They began by visiting the town library, hoping to find old records, newspaper articles, or even notes about the black car Mrs. Thompson had mentioned. The librarian, a middle-aged man with gentle eyes, welcomed them and allowed them to search the archives. Hours passed as Robert and Lucas sifted through old clippings. Finally, Lucas pointed to a small article from 5 years ago, "Local girl missing family seeks help." The photograph beside the article showed Anna exactly as Robert remembered her, a little girl with curious eyes and a soft smile. His heart tightened. "She was here," Robert whispered, voice shaking. "She was somewhere near this town after all." Lucas leaned closer. "I remember the day the car came. I tried to follow it, but it drove too fast. I didn't know who it was. I've carried that memory for years, wondering what happened to her." Robert felt his eyes sting. "You were brave, Lucas. You remember, and your memory will help us. We will find her." After leaving the library, they visited the street mentioned in the article. Small houses lined the road, quiet and peaceful. Robert stopped in front of a modest house that had belonged to a relative of Anna's family. He knocked on the door, and an elderly man answered. "Hello, sir," Robert said politely. "I'm looking for information about a girl named Anna Mason. She stayed here years ago. Did you know her?" The man's eyes widened. "Anna Mason, yes, I remember. She was a bright child. But, after she left, we never saw her again. Strange people came to take her. I thought she went with family, but something felt off. I never knew the full story." Robert's chest tightened. Strange people? Could someone have hidden Anna on purpose? Could there be more to her disappearance than he had imagined? "Do you know where she went?" Robert asked gently. The man shook his head. "No, sir. But I remember a name, a woman named Clara. She helped watch the children during that time. Maybe she knows more." Robert's heart skipped. Clara, the same caretaker Helen had found in her investigation. The pieces were coming together. He looked at Lucas. "We need to see Clara again. She may have more information." By afternoon, Robert and Lucas were on their way to Clara's small home at the edge of town. The caretaker greeted them warmly, though there was a noticeable tension in her expression. "I told you before about Anna," Clara said softly. "But there's something more. After she stayed here, someone contacted me. They said she had to be moved for her own safety. I don't know why or who they were, only that she was taken far away. I was not allowed to follow." Robert felt a deep ache. His daughter had been alive, but hidden, separated from him for reasons he could not yet understand. He gripped Clara's hands gently. "Do you remember anything else? Any details, names, places? Anything that could help us find her?" Clara hesitated, then nodded. "There was a man who drove the black car. He said she had to go with him. He left instructions for me to care for Lucas and keep him safe. That's all I know." Lucas's eyes widened. "That man. I remember seeing him, but I never knew who he was. I've wondered for years." Robert's heart pounded. The mystery was close to being solved, yet the final answers remained elusive. Someone had hidden Anna, someone powerful enough to make her disappear without leaving a trace. But now, with Lucas, Clara, and the old town records, they had the threads needed to unravel the story. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Robert and Lucas sat outside Clara's home. The sky was painted with shades of orange and gold, and the quiet town seemed to hold its breath. Robert turned to Lucas. "We are very close," he said softly. "Tomorrow, we will follow the leads Clara gave us. We will uncover where Anna has been all these years." Lucas nodded, determination in his eyes. "I want to know the truth too. I want to see her again, to finally understand what happened." Robert felt a surge of emotion. For the first time in 5 long years, hope felt real. The missing pieces were beginning to fit together. The journey had been long and painful, but the end was in sight. That night, Robert could not sleep. He stared at the ceiling of the small inn where they stayed, imagining Anna's face, her laugh, her presence that had been missing for so long. He whispered to himself, "We are close, Anna. Hold on. I will not rest until I bring you home." And in that quiet night, the town seemed peaceful, yet full of secrets. Robert knew that the next day could change everything. They were on the brink of discovering the truth that had been hidden for years. The final chapter was approaching, and nothing would stop him from finding Anna. The sun rose gently over the small town, painting the streets with soft light. Robert Mason and Lucas were already awake, ready to follow the final lead that Clara had given them. After years of searching, months of questioning, and countless small discoveries, they were closer than ever to finding Anna. Robert felt his heart pounding not from fear, but from hope. Clara had given them an address, a small home in a nearby city where the man in the black car had taken Anna. The details were vague, but it was the first real clue they had had in years. Robert hired a discreet driver to take them quickly but quietly. He did not want to alarm anyone or put Anna at risk. As they drove, Robert thought of Anna, her laugh, her small hands, the way she had once run into his arms. 5 years had passed, but in his heart, she had never left. Now, the possibility of seeing her again, of finally holding her, made him feel alive in a way he had not felt in years. When they arrived at the address, Robert felt a mix of fear and anticipation. What if Anna did not remember him? What if something had changed, and the reunion he had dreamed of was not possible? He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Lucas knocked gently on the door. A moment later, it opened, and there she was, Anna. She looked older, stronger, and wise beyond her years, but there was no mistaking her. Her eyes, the same bright, curious eyes that had haunted Robert's dreams, all the memories of his daughter came rushing back. "Anna," Robert whispered, his voice trembling. Anna froze, her eyes wide, searching the face before her. Recognition flickered slowly, like a spark catching fire. "Father," she asked softly, almost unsure. Robert stepped forward, tears streaming down his face. "Yes, Anna. It's me. I have been looking for you for so long. I thought I had lost you forever." Anna's hands trembled as she reached out. I didn't know if you would come. I was taken away, and I didn't understand why. I thought you had forgotten me." Robert shook his head, pulling her into his arms. "Never, Anna. I never forgot you. Every day, I hoped, I prayed. And now I have found you." Lucas stood nearby, watching quietly. He had been part of this journey, and he felt a deep sense of relief and joy. The boy who had once reminded Robert so much of Anna now saw the reunion he had longed for. Anna pulled back slightly, looking at Lucas. You were with me? Did you know? Lucas nodded. Yes. I remembered you. I saw the photograph, and then everything came back. I wanted to help find you, and I'm glad I could. Anna smiled, tears in her eyes. Thank you, Lucas. I don't know what would have happened without you. Robert felt a rush of gratitude toward the young man who had unknowingly guided him to Anna. Lucas, he said, voice steady, you are like family to us now. You helped bring Anna home. Anna looked at Robert, her face softening. I have so many questions, she said. Why was I taken? Who kept me? Why did no one tell me anything? Robert gently held her hands. We will find the answers, Anna. We will uncover everything. But first, I want you home, with me, where you belong. The rest, we will face together. The journey back to Robert's mansion was quiet at first, filled with a peaceful relief. Anna sat beside her father, finally able to feel safe again. Lucas rode with them, quietly proud and happy to have helped restore a family. Once home, Anna walked through the halls she had once known as a little girl. Everything was familiar and yet changed. She ran her fingers along the walls, touched the old furniture, and finally looked at her father. It feels like coming home, she whispered. Robert knelt beside her, holding her hands. It is home, Anna. And it always will be. You were never forgotten. Not for a single moment. Over the next few days, Anna and Robert talked endlessly. She shared memories of the time she had been taken, of the people who had cared for her, and of the longing she had felt to be reunited with her father. Robert listened, holding her hand, comforting her, and promising that nothing would separate them again. Lucas watched quietly, smiling. He had not realized that helping Robert would lead to such a profound moment. The boy who had once only reminded Robert of Anna had now become an essential part of their story, a bridge between the past and the present. That evening, as the sun set over the city, Robert, Anna, and Lucas sat together in the garden. The light painted their faces with a warm glow. Robert held Anna's hand and looked at Lucas. We have been through so much, he said softly. But now, we are together. That is what matters most. Anna smiled, resting her head against her father's shoulder. I am home, she whispered. And for the first time in 5 long years, Robert Mason felt complete. His daughter was safe, the past was slowly unraveling, and hope had triumphed over despair. The missing years had been painful, but now they were behind them, and the future was filled with love, family, and the promise of never being apart again.